I'd like to call the June 3rd, 2024 Advisory Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Ms. Babbitt?
Here.
Ms. Bourgeois?
Here.
Ms. Petita?
Here.
Open.
Good. Number 2, new business. Item A, parental concerns regarding Title IX changes as presented by Ms. Nicole Otwell. Ms. Otwell, you have the floor.
Yes, ma'am. Where's our stand?
Right at the center of the podium behind.
Right here?
Yes, ma'am.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Hello, my name is Nicole Otwell, and tonight I will be speaking on the effects of Title IX and the changes and why we should oppose it. The women on the screen that you see here are pioneers in their field as well as in women's rights. They would not have been able to achieve their goals or accomplish their dreams without the rights that Title IX had provided them. Today, Riley Gaines is continuing the fight. What is Title IX and why is it important? On June 23, 1972, Title IX was signed into law. The intention of Title IX was to protect biological women in sports and access to their education. What's Title IX's definition of sex? On January 8, 2021, the Office of Civil Rights at the Department of Education defined sex as a biological female or biological male, reaffirming the public's definition of sex with a clear and direct scientific answer. The Oxford Dictionary defines sex as either of the two main categories, male and female, into which humans and most other things are divided on the basis of their reproduction function. Under the Biden-Harris administration, biology has now been redefined to include identifies as all scientific truths such as muscle strength, endurance, body fat, menstruation, pregnancy, childbirth have all been discarded. How is this definition justified? The administration is using the Supreme Court case Bostic versus Clayton County, Georgia. This is a Title VII case dealing with an employee discrimination where a transgender individual and an openly gay man were terminated for employment because of their sexual orientation. This doesn't have anything to do with Title IX, so I don't know why they're using it. But basically, the administration is applying this definition from an employment case to a title case that is made for biological women's rights. Title IX changes will now allow a male student who identifies as a female access to bathrooms and locker rooms designated for females and vice versa. Gender fluid students that identify both as male and female would have access to whatever gender bathroom they identify at that time. This scenario will undoubtedly create confusion, provoke conflict, and breed a hostile environment for all involved. Not to mention, these changes open the door to predators to have access to our children's places of privacy. Biological women could potentially lose scholarships for sports and education to biological men identifying as females. Your children and their instructors will be compelled to address individuals by their preferred pronoun, despite personal or religious beliefs. The changes would also impact how investigations are done on college campuses. You would only need to show evidence that the situation is more likely to have taken place than less likely, not that an incident actually took place, with no guarantee of cross-examination by the defense The accused would be denied their presumption of innocence till proven guilty. In addition to the new rule, it will no longer be mandatory to notify law enforcement of sexual assault. No reports mean no investigations. No investigations means no evidence. No evidence, no crime, no trial, no ruling, no accountability. What's at risk if the school board does not comply? Government funded programs like the Kinley Bentham, USDA free lunch programs, and special education resources could all be pulled, and we understand this. I would say instead of using this as a crutch, we should be creating alternative means of funding so that we can fund our own program. What happens if a student does not comply? Legal repercussions brought on to this child or their team or even the organization that they are representing. Locker room talk can become sexual harassment cases. Students who potentially become excited by the opposite sex would be in violation and could also receive repercussions. Out of the 600,000 students enrolled in Louisiana public schools, 1.7% are transgender. Since the current government administration has taken office, we have seen a rise in bathroom incidents involving sexual assault, rape, and even death, targeting the trans and gender fluid individuals. This topic drives a wedge between the public, but what can be done for our students? And this answer would be individual bathrooms, would be the only answer. So in the First Amendment, Congress cannot make a law that puts anyone's religion over another person's. Additionally, the government cannot interfere with the person exercising their right to the freedom of religion, speech, press, or the right to assemble peacefully. Chief Justice John G. Roberts Jr. has stated that some of the court's leading First Amendment proceedings have established the principle that freedom of speech prohibits the government from telling the people what they could say. Title IX changes force-compelled speech. Individuals who choose to stand with their faith will be persecuted and the stigmata will follow them throughout their school career. The 14th Amendment does not allow for a law to be made that can halt the privileges or immunity of a U.S. citizen, nor can a state deprive a person of life, liberty, and property without due process of law, nor deny any person within jurisdiction the equal protection of these laws. The Due Process Clause protects the fundamental rights of a parent to direct the care, upbringing, and education of our children. So in regards to educating our children, we as parents have the right to say what we want for them. Chief Justice James Clark McReynolds stated, "It is a natural duty of a parent to give education suitable to their station in life." Title IX goes against the Women's Safety and Protection Act. The Act uses biological terms to define gender, not a person's interpretation. The definitions are clear and to the point, and we printed these up if y'all like to have copies. These representatives were elected by the majority. They all voted for the Women's Safety and Protection Act, so we're going to assume that they're speaking for the majority. How would this impact the school district if they would comply with Title IX changes? Lawsuits dealing with compelled speech, violations of rights and laws, potential staffing issues, increased sexual violations and school liability, a reduction in school population, which will cause a loss in funding. Many school districts across the state have passed resolutions that assure the public that they will not comply with Title IX changes and support the Louisiana Attorney General in her fight to maintain women's rights. As of now, no member from this board has made a formal written statement on the matter. We just would like to know who on the board is truly representing the people of the Bayou. I submitted a resolution on behalf of Agreeing Lafourche Parish parents. When I was informed that the board also had a resolution in the works, I was excited. I hope the board takes into consideration the following qualities. The final resolution should show the public where you stand on this matter. It should reassure the majority that you will fight for our children. It should show lawmakers that you do not want this, and the people that you serve do not want this. And we will not be leveraged by federal funding. Food for thought. Women are still in the minority in professions such as small business, school administration, and STEM fields. If Title IX changes are allowed to happen, it will decrease the funding for biological women, ultimately lowering the percentage of women in these areas that are already unequal. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for hearing me on this matter.
Thank you, Ms. Hartwell. Any additional public comment? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jamie Marbrule. I live in District 7, 70374. First, I would like to thank Ms. Otwell for having the courage to come forward and do this on behalf of all of us that agree with her. She has taken a risk as I did. I would also like to thank Vicki Cochet for all the warnings throughout the years that fell on deaf ears. She was right, and that time she spoke of is now here. Our children are exposed to so much at school, such as some students claiming to witness oral sex in the bathroom. Some students on average every 2.5 months have seen students passing out, greening out, or overdosing, or watch as their peers are taken to the hospital for something that was vaped at school. On average, every 3.3 months, students are taking their own lives at our local high school. Some rumored to be bullied, and others just did not like school despite their many accolades. Students are vaping openly in class, bullying, threats of violence, and stalking that have ended in restraining orders, and the list could go on. With so many issues plaguing our schools, the changes to Title IX would add to what already cannot be controlled. If the bathrooms cannot be controlled now, imagine what you will be dealing with if you comply with Title IX. Issues such as boys wanting to have sex with their girlfriends. All they have to do is identify as gender fluid and say they're a female that day, and they can go into the girls' bathroom and have a quick hookup. Our public schools are not social science experiments. We as parents agree that the school system is about ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, and the parent's job is the birds and the bees. We've had in the last 12 months members of this board vote down the Fairness in Women's Sports Act to protect our daughters, an act that members of our state legislature that represent Lafourche Parish voted for, which again, they represent the majority. Dr. Giat, someone that has a PhD, and I hope I get this word right, in kinesiology and is an assistant professor of human performance education, should understand the biological differences between biological females and biological males. One would think with that knowledge he would want to protect our daughters, but he did not and voted no on adding the Fairness in Women's Sports Act to the school board policy.
You cannot call out a board member by name, and all of your comments need to be directed towards the Title IX.
It's getting there, because the point I'm making is that you all have voted down policies to protect our children. And Title IX deals with, and the Women's and Fairness Sports Act does protect our daughters, which is a part of Title IX, if you understand Title IX.
Please keep your comments to the Title IX issue.
It is, because we would like you to vote.
You cannot call out a board member by name.
He was clear that well, we would think that a board member would want to protect our children. We've had to watch and listen in the month of April when a parent brought policy to keep sexually explicit content out of K through 12 schools get a lecture from the committee chair of policy and academics about how he will not support any policy brought by the public. He was clear that the consulting firm from Baton Rouge was smart, and that is where this board gets their advice from. Not the lawmakers that represent Lafourche Parish, not the parents of the children in this school system, not the stakeholders on this bayou, potential liberal lawyers from Baton Rouge that are not invested in this community and do not live in this community, but somehow you all think that they seem to know better. These changes to Title IX are not bringing together people, but only dividing them further and creating an unequal playing field for our biological women and girls. Since the Biden administration has taken office and started to play with Title IX, we have seen more and more children assaulted in bathrooms, no matter how they identify. This is not acceptable, and we have no safeguards at all anyway, not y'all, not us as parents, and especially not the children. All of you are here to be our advocates for our children and to represent the will of the people. You swore an oath to serve us. The consulting firm that you seek advice from does not know our children, does not know the challenges our children are facing on a daily basis because of the advice that they have given you. The implementation of Title IX will desensitize our children to dangers and predators that mean them harm, as you have our children more waking hours than we do. Madam Vice President, a board member voted against policy from the public that would have protected our children from sexually explicit content. One can theorize the ties to the Tier 1 funding had something to do with it, which further drives my fear, because if you do not comply with Title IX, you could lose your federal funding, which I know this district relies heavily on. Not all members of the public. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. And not all members of this public can afford to send their children to private school like some members of this board. Mr. Martin, there is someone who runs this school district that is paid very well by the public and has been charged with the running of the school district. This board gives you accolades for doing such a fine job. Do you believe that you are doing a fine job? Because if so, I have to ask, why is it that you send your oldest daughter to E.D. White and not a high school that you serve over
That is
in this
not
district?
part of the Title IX funding. You will have to sit down if this happens again.
I was once told when I served on this board that I needed to act accordingly to gain the public's trust. Are you, Ms. Bourgeois? Are you, Ms. Fertitta? Are the other board members acting that way to gain the public's trust? Have you read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female? Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me, but whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Since God puts every human authority in place to serve his purpose, Christians must submit to them. Second, we must love our neighbors as ourselves. Third, we are called to live as people of the light and throw off works of darkness like drunkenness, sexual immorality, and jealousy. We are to take on the armor of the light against the darkness and in fact take on Christ himself instead of serving our own desires. And tonight I hope that you will stand with what is morally right, the majority of the public, and vote to move this resolution forward to the full board. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Please state your name and address for the record.
Vicky
Please
Cluche, Shreveport,
keep
Louisiana.
your comments to the Title IX.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, I'm not here to fuss anybody. I'm just here to, number one, thank y'all for having this meeting and allowing the public to talk about this. You know, I was here 2 years ago, and we knew it wasn't over. And what we have now is our governor, our AG, and our state superintendent who are speaking out and taking a stand. I know that, I know Terrebonne did not get in on the lawsuit. You guys didn't get on the lawsuit, but there may be things down the road from what I read from our Attorney General. But, you know, I think that now is the time that we can put aside, you know, fears and concerns, and let's go ahead and jump on board and basically shout from the rooftops, this is where we stand. This is where we stand in South Louisiana. I could not think of a better place to live and have to fight this fight than with the people that are shoulder to shoulder with us in this. And so, again, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your consideration. we are asking you, we worked together on this, but, you know, technically, we are asking for the same thing, that you would put out a resolution or proclamation, if you will, so that parents and citizens know exactly where Foos Parish School District stands on the situation. And I believe we're gonna win. So thank you. I just appreciate the time.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? As before, please state your name and address and please give your comments to the title.
Ron Sache, 110 Bourgeois Street, Grayson, Louisiana, 70394. I'm going to kind of pivot a little bit from what the previous speaker spoke about. I reviewed school board policies and focused on Section J, which is titled students. I looked at Title IX, sexual harassment, due process, bullying and hazing, student complaints, concerns, sexual-related student conduct, discipline, student welfare, and school wellness. And I went through those policies. Now, I didn't go through everything in J, so maybe it is in J, and I guess this is kind of just a question throughout to the superintendent. Today, gender identity is an issue. You like it, you don't like it, it's an issue. I don't think we currently have policy in place today to deal with it. If the Biden administration gets their way and the Title IX issue takes effect, I think the school system needs to have a plan. But then, for sure, and I would love to help work on that plan. This is a resolution. Just want to remind you one more thing. This is a resolution. This is not a policy. So I would ask that y'all send it to the full board on Wednesday night. Have the resolution in new business, like you'll have all other resolutions in the new business, like y'all had the Gator bill that y'all opposed under new business. I just have that. Y'all have any questions? Hearing none, thank y'all.
Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address and your comments must be.
Hey, I'm Shanna Ellender Yuritich, crossing North Boulevard in Foos Parish. I'm so glad we're talking about this. I really appreciate that we're being allowed to talk about this. It's really important to me as a teacher and as a parent that we're addressing this. I think it's going to go so far if you guys, and I hear that you're working on a resolution, which is heartwarming. It means so much to me that you guys stand on what you believe, but also what we believe and we want as parents to be addressed. We just want you to say concretely, without a doubt, at our schools, we will not allow this to happen. We do not agree with what Title IX is being turned into rather than what it originally did state. And I just think it would bring so much camaraderie from the public to hear you say, we hear you, we agree with you, we put it in writing, without a doubt, President Biden, Kate Brumley, anyone who's listening, this is where we stand. So I really appreciate you considering this. I appreciate you hearing us and being willing to have the conversation with us. So thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Any other public comment? Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll say something. Okay.
Please state your name and address.
My name's Darrell Marlboro. I live in Lockport, 70374. So, I've been kind of let down. I didn't see many, dads come out tonight, but a lot of us, we work hard. We just don't know. We don't know the process. I'm kind of learning the process, even though my wife was a part of you guys back when. This isn't real comfortable for me, but when it comes to my daughter, my new granddaughter, I have to speak up. Everything that everybody said tonight, I'm asking you guys, please listen to them. Take it to heart. You guys all have girls, in your families, whether it be daughters, nieces, granddaughters, cousins. Just as a dad, when we all by ourselves, talk with other dads, us, big booty guys, oh man, if something like that ever happens, they don't want to know what I'm going to do, Please help us dads out, not have to get to that point, because if something happens in one of these bathrooms and we don't know what we're talking about, save us from getting in trouble down the road, protect our girls. That's what I'm here to ask, because it's not good for them. I'm hoping I'm putting that as best I can. Thank y'all for hearing me out and take this in consideration.
Thank you. Even though it's not comfortable, we appreciate your comments.
On 2207 Ramsey Drive. Again, I'd like to say thanks that we're having an open discussion and for people showing up. I think it's a time of what I would like to call as a reawakening of the country to the virtues and values that our elected officials portray and how they act on our behalf. And I'd like to ask you to clearly produce a resolution so we could get a determination of how you feel individually, how you vote, so how well you represent the public that elected you. In the high schools today, as you all know, it's a very confusing time to be a young adolescent, much less have to deal with the social issues that they're being confronted with. They had no control over those elements that they're facing. This is all external to them being children. And you're given a position to make that decision. Help guide a less confusing environment that they go to work, they go to school in every day. And actually are charged to have an environment where they leave feeling self-confident and ability to address the world. And that's not happening across this country anymore. They're not leaving with that self-confidence. And adding this kind of confusion for what will happen in that environment, I think this group and the public is looking for clarity on your thoughts relative to things beyond their control, and keeping it back to what we believe as Christians in this public environment, a man and a woman, and they're separate. And we hope to see a resolution that represents the faith and the community that you represent, because individual cultures need people representing their beliefs and values, and we hope to see it in your resolution.
We have the public comment.
Debbie Melvin, 22 Cedar Tree Drive, Thibodeau. I was just looking up HB 608, which is the Women's Safety and Protection Act that just passed, that was pointed out in this materials that they handed out. I was counting the co-authors to that bill, and it's about 60. And on the list, co-authors now. So they believe strongly enough in this information to co-author this bill. And I saw Brian Fontenot, and I saw here, let's see, I know I saw Jessica Domingue from HOMA, but they're on here if y'all want to look this up. We're not by ourselves, and that's what I want to point out, is that we're not jumping into the fray, that we're not joining with others in. And Sometimes if we feel like we are acting alone, you know, we feel like it's scary. To me, this is not scary. We've got lots of backup, and we've got lots of support. And also, I looked at the resolution that he handed out, and it is just like Terrebonne's, except at the bottom where they would send copies. They would suggest sending copies to some of our elected officials in Washington, D.C. That's it. And when We the People contacted some of you back when this first came out, we said Terrebonne's resolution is good. You know, we suggest that maybe y'all would look at that as the model for one that you have developed. So I'm anxious to see, honestly, I'm anxious to see what y'all are developing. And I feel confident that we're going to be on the same page when it's all over. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Coming back, Mr. Marlboro. Board comment.
I just want to thank the people that came up to speak tonight. You were very eloquent, and I personally understand your feelings, and I appreciate, just your honesty and your belief in our children and our system, and just ask that you believe in us as a board that we want to do what is right for your children, for our children, and for the future of children in LaFourche Parish.
I want to also say thank you, and Ms. Otwell, I want to thank you personally because you were definitely out of your comfort zone, but you did a fantastic job. You spoke from your heart and you presented yourself very well. So thank you very much for doing that.
I agree. I concur. Thank you for doing that. Everybody spoke eloquently, and we have some of the same concerns you guys have. We really appreciate the presentation. But as we said, we do have our board attorney looking at a resolution for this issue. But we do have, just know that we do have some of the same concerns that you guys have. We're on the same page. So now I need a motion. Yes, ma'am.
So I would like to motion that we table the item with the understanding that I agree that it's very concerning and it does need to be addressed. However, I do feel that the resolution that we write has to be done with our legal team and has to be written meticulously. So not to vote it down and not to put it aside, just to say we need to work on it with our legal matters.
We concur with that. Ms. Patina seconded. I think that we have a great board attorney and he's working on something, so we can table it until he gives us his stamp of approval, and we look at it and give our stamp of approval. So we'll get a hand vote on tabling the item. All in favor, raise your hand. On a copy of this. So there is no dissenting vote, so we are voting to table until our attorney, we are voting to table it until our attorney can give us the language that we need for LaFourche Parish. So, hearing the presentation and the reason for the meeting, our meeting is now adjourned.
Now it's adjourned, can I ask you a question? Because Title IX changes are coming August 1st. You have one meeting